name's Glenda Phipps, and I'm the chairperson of English at the Inter-American Campus, and I will be introducing our speaker today. We are in our 32nd year of Miami Book Fair. Can you believe it? Who's been here all 32 years? No one. Okay. At least once before. How many people once before? Yeah, okay. So most of us a little bit. Today we are going to hear from David Bianchi. And let me just read a little bit as a way of introduction for what he's going to be speaking about. David Bianchi has been a lawyer and an investor for the past 36 years, almost longer than the book fair. Most recently, he was chairman of, let me make sure I say it right, Nubio? Is that right? Okay. A spin-out from Harvard University that was developing a desktop DNA sequencing machine. He was a founder of Florida Savings Bank and served as vice chairman and a board member. He graduated with a degree in economics from Tufts University and obtained his law degree from Boston College. Bianchi's book, Blue Chip Kids, you'll see it here, Blue Chip Kids, What Every Child and Parent Should Know About Money, Investing in the Stock Market, is a fun and easy to understand introduction to the world of money and investing for kids and parents. This hands-on resource demystifies the basic principles about money matters and shows what it takes to spend, save, and invest wisely. For every parent who wants their children to develop the skills to invest wisely and become responsible money managers, regular savers, and to earn money while they sleep, that sounds good, this book is a must-have. As a mother of a 7-year-old child, I'm very happy to be here for this one. I want to hear a lot about that. Mr. Bianchi will be speaking and then signing, and you can speak with him, and he'll be signing his book right outside the door in the red area. So let's introduce Mr. Bianchi.
Thank you. Well, thank you for being here. Let me be real clear. This is a book fair with lots of really well-known authors, and I'm not one of these people. I've never written anything in my life and had no intention of writing a book. This was one gigantic accident. My wife and I have one child who was 12 years old at the time, and I'm a big believer that we need to be teaching our kids about money, how to earn it, how to manage it, and how to invest it. And we're not doing that. And I looked at his school. He goes to a very good school, and they're not going to teach it. So I decided I would do it myself. And my plan was nothing more dramatic than writing 10 pages of stuff, odds and ends, that I was going to put a staple in and give it to him. And then I was going to walk him through it, and hopefully he'd learn something about money. And one thing led to another, and I couldn't stop typing, and it took me 12 months instead of 12 days, and I ended up with 100 topics, and a long story short, it was published by Wiley, which is a big publisher out of New York, and I'm shocked at the reaction to the whole thing. What I've learned is that there's a huge unmet need for financial literacy education in the United States. And everybody seems to think the kids ought to know about this, but nobody's really doing anything about it. And I've been on television and radio programs in 50 different places around the country, from California to New York, and the reaction everywhere is always the same. And that is that the parents say, I wish I had this when I was a kid. How come they don't teach this in the schools? And I'm going to buy this for my kid, but I'm going to read it myself because I don't know enough about it either. So that's kind of what's going on. And this has got more traction than I ever imagined. PBS is making a television program out of it, which should be out by the end of 2016. It was recently the #1 book on Amazon in the category of kids and money. And you can't meet a family in this country that doesn't want their kids to be smarter about money. So I put together some interesting data, at least it's interesting to me, I hope you don't find it boring, about just how bad the financial literacy problem is in the United States. So I don't have a remote that works, so I've got some help here. So here we go. In a recent study of 15-year-olds from all around the world to see what they know about money and financial matters, kids in the United States placed behind kids in Latvia, Estonia, the Czech Republic, Belgium, China, New Zealand, Australia, and Poland. Our kids, our 15-year-olds, knew less about money matters than kids in all of those countries. And by the way, I'm trying to get all this done in 30 minutes, so I'm going to try to move along here. So one of the things I did is I got a camera crew and I went out into the street, and for fun, I started to interview young people to see what they know about money. And I put a few of the clips in here today, just so you can see what kind of reaction I got to questions. So go ahead. Ask you your ages, please.
15, 17.
What's the difference between a debit card and a credit card?
I'm not sure.
What's the difference between simple interest and compound interest?
No idea. Not at all.
No idea? Okay. What's the difference between being long a stock and short a stock?
No. Nope.
No go?
Yeah.
How many stocks are there in the S&P 500? And I'm only talking about stocks.
Is it 500? 500.
Are you guessing or do you know?
I'm guessing, yeah.
What is a price-earnings ratio?
How much something costs to how much you earn. I'm gonna go with that one. Yeah.
So here's the deal. These are not dumb kids. These were really nice kids from a really nice family. I met them in South Miami on the street. And they're smart, but nobody's taken the time to teach them any of this. So therefore, they don't know. And if we took the time to teach them, they would know. But that problem is we're not addressing the issue in the country. Okay? This is very interesting. Every year, a company called EverFi surveys about 60,000 college freshmen in the United States. And in one of the most recent surveys from EverFi, they found that kids who took financial literacy courses in high school had a much healthier attitude about money when they started college. And what does that mean? It means they were less likely to borrow money, less likely to take on student debt, less likely to sign up for credit cards, more likely to have a checkbook so they could see the money come in and the money go out, and more likely to work if they needed to work in order to make ends meet. And it was the result, EverFi says, of the fact that they had a financial literacy education in high school. This is just another interview. Go ahead. What is the difference between simple interest and compound interest?
I have no idea.
What is the S&P 500?
I have no idea.
What is...
That sounds familiar. I don't know. I feel like it's like an award thing. Like it's a company that says something about the standards of something. I'm telling you, I think I know. I think I know.
All right, and you may. What is the Russell 2000?
I have no idea. Got me there. No idea.
How many stocks are there, and I'm only talking about stocks, in the S&P 500?
I have no idea.
How many stocks are there in the Dow 30? And I'm only talking about stocks.
30? I'm not familiar with like the stock market. Something people should be investing in?
But do you think the young people ought to at least know about it, learn about it?
Yeah, I think it's important to invest your money from an early age.
Are you getting that sort of education in high school?
No. No, I was actually a business major in finance when I went to school in high school, and I didn't really learn much about the stock market at all.
So, okay. So this is what's out there. Now, one of the things behind the book, and it's borne out by this study, is that students who like to learn and who like to think about these things will do much better on financial literacy material than kids who don't like to learn and who are not bored. And the point behind the book, because I wrote it never intending it to be seen by anybody other than our 12-year-old son, was I wanted it to be fun for him. And my theory was if it was fun, he would actually read it. And the book has got 165 cartoons, much like the whole Diary of a Wimpy Kid series that young people love and my son devours. And I thought, well, if I populate the book with all these cartoons like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, maybe he'll actually read it. And in fact, that's what's happened. So if you make it fun, and simple and educational, you can reach a huge audience. All right, you can play that one, I guess. This is the last one.
What's the difference between simple interest and compound interest?
I don't know. I actually just graduated from UM. I'm about to be a graduate student, but so like I'm studying psychology, not finance, so I don't really know.
Okay. What is a stock?
A stock is when you buy a little bit off of a market, like say Disney or something, and then you get it back depending on how much money they make.
You get the stock back?
I don't.
Okay. What is an index fund?
Oh, that's weird.
What is a mutual fund?
Mutual fund is when you have funds, and then you go like this.
They come together sort of mutually.
Exactly.
Okay, next slide. We've got a humongous problem in the United States. We have over $1.2 trillion of outstanding student debt in this country. And kids are signing up for this debt when they're in 12th grade in high school because they're getting ready to go to college. Oftentimes they're going to schools where they really can't afford to go. So they apply for student loans and they sign up for it when they're either 17 or 18 years old. And that starts the process of signing up for all this student debt. And now it's a huge problem in the country to the point where it's even been elevated to one of the issues being discussed in the presidential campaign that's going on right now. And the kids can't get out from under this. And they seem to think that because they're going to an expensive school, that somehow they'll be better off than if they went to a less expensive school, which I think is probably not the right thing, because you can't necessarily equate how much you pay with the quality of the education and what your success is going to be in life. You just can't. But a lot of kids think that you can. And there are kids out there right now that have come out of grad school that have got $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 of outstanding student debt, which they will never be able to pay off. And so what do? They move back home with their parents because they have so much debt they have to service, they can't afford to go, forget about buying a house, they don't even rent apartments. They move back in with their parents. And even for people who say, well, my kid doesn't need student loans because we can afford to pay for it, it's something that everybody needs to be concerned about because this student debt is inhibiting GDP growth in the country. It's holding back the growth of our economy because young people are not spending money on things that would normally grow the economy because they're having to service this student debt that they took on when they were 17 or 18 years old. So it's everybody's problem. The average amount of student debt jumped from $15,000 to $27,000 from 2004 to 2014. Now that's just the average, $27,000. But as I said, there are kids out there with $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 of student debt. And when you're fresh out of college, $27,000 of student debt is a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Might as well be $270,000 for somebody coming right out of college. This is a stunning statistic, and it comes from the Government Accounting Office. I tried to source every single piece of information here so you don't just think I'm making it up. 700,000 households headed by people 65 or older in the United States are still carrying $18 billion of unpaid student debt, and 27% of those loans are in default. Think about that. 65 or older. They probably took these loans out, 45 years ago, started taking them out. I mean, I find it almost impossible to believe, but it came from a GAO report. 29 million millennials. You know, millennials are roughly, they kind of are defined as 20 to 40 age group. About a third of them have outstanding student debt that they make payments on every single month. Nationwide, 11% of student loans are delinquent or in default, and in Florida, it's twice as high. 22% of student loans are delinquent or in default in Florida. We are twice as high as the national average. Now, this is a really terrific statistic. that looks boring, but if you listen to it, it's really important. Here's the deal. And by the way, this is from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York in February of this year. So it's a brand new report. Here's what they say. For kids who are in high school, if you are projected based upon how you're doing academically and what your skill set is and how hard you try in life, if you are projected to be a median income earner over your lifetime, just sort of in average, in the middle somewhere, you're going to see your earnings grow over a 30-year period of time. From the time you're 25 to 55, you're going to see your earnings grow by 38%. That's not per year, that's total over 30 years. Now that's really nothing. It's 1% a year over 30 years. But if you're a high school kid who really tries harder and applies himself or herself, applies yourself, so that you're on a trajectory coming out of high school to really do well, so that you are projected to be in the top 5% of income earners, then over the same 30-year period, instead of seeing your income grow by 38%, you're going to see your income grow by 230% over the same 30-year period of time. And finally, if you're the superstar kid in high school, where you're really on a terrific trajectory, your income, if you're projected to be in the top 1%, your income's going to grow by 1,450% over the same period of time. And that's directly from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York in February of this year. So what does that mean? It means that for parents who can, and for kids who care, you should work with your students, your daughters and your sons, before they graduate from high school, to get them to understand the value of really working hard in college and grad school if they go to grad school, because it has direct, demonstrable economic consequences, and they're dramatic. 38% over 30 years, or 1,450% over 30 years. It's stunning. Okay. Oh, we all know we're a nation of debtors. We all know that. We have $17 trillion of national debt in the United States. If you've never done this before, this is really cool. Go to usdebtclock.org, and you can watch the accumulation of our national debt as you look at the screen. It's really just unbelievable. The numbers are just churning right in front of your eyes, because the interest is accruing on all of the unpaid debt. And when you look at it, it's like, oh my God, we're never going to get out from under this. Okay? This is another interesting statistic. In 1959, when they first started keeping these statistics, the average American family saved about 11% of after-tax income. Today it's 4.4%. So our savings rate as a nation has fallen dramatically since 1959. Why is that? Lots of reasons. Wage growth has not kept up with inflation, that's number one. Number two, people have created these lifestyles that are largely based on debt that they really can't afford, so they're having to spend all kinds of money just to tread water, and therefore they don't have enough money left over to save. They can barely pay what they need to pay on a monthly basis, but trying to find money to save and invest is very, very difficult for the average family. The need for a serious commitment to financial literacy has never been more urgent. This is what got me to write this book in the first place. I thought to myself, you know, if something happens to me, and my son was 12 at the time, he's now 14, I thought if something happens to me, if I die tomorrow, I want somebody to sit with him and teach him about the very basics of finance and money, how to earn it, how to manage it, and how to invest it. I want somebody to do that. So a lot of people think that, well, they're too young and they won't be interested. That's a big mistake. Young people don't know enough about how to earn, manage, and invest money. They spend too much, borrow too much, and save too little. We know that. Now, I happen to have the only tree in probably the world where money grows on the tree. You'll see right there, that's a tree in my backyard. And that's real money. If you come up and look carefully, you'll see it's real money. And it's a cool tree because it just produces money all day long. I love it. But I'm the only one in the world with this because so many people think money grows on trees. And for most people, it doesn't. And nowadays with these smartphones, all you got to do is push the little button that says buy now, which kids do, without any real thought process. as to what's the consequence of doing that. Well, the parents are going to get a bill. Somebody's going to have to pay for it. And you got to inculcate into your kids the fact that unsolicited credit cards are no good. They don't need them. They shouldn't be taking out credit cards when they're in college, and they're still doing it. They're still doing it. I spoke recently to a room and a bunch of college students. They said, raise your hand if you've been receiving unsolicited credit card applications at school. And all kinds of hands went up. It's a big problem. Now, but in order to make this work, you can't just buy this book or any book. It doesn't matter, any book. You can't just buy it and give it to the kid and say, go read it and hope that he or she reads it. It's not going to work that way. There has to be a willingness on the part of teachers to teach it, and there has to be a willingness on the part of parents to work with their kids. The parents have to be willing to take some time each week to address this issue with their kids. And what I have found works for us is that I have my son read 10 pages of the book at a time, and that's it. And he stops. And then I sit with him for 15 minutes and we talk about the 10 pages. And we are done for the day, that's all. And maybe 3 or 4 days later, we'll do another 10 pages. And if you let them do it in bite-sized pieces and spend the time to talk to them about what they just read, it really sinks in. And we have now worked our way through the book twice by doing it this way. And if he were here, he's 14 and he's no smarter than any other kid. But if he was here, he could tell you what a PE ratio is. And he knows the difference between simple interest and compound interest. And he understands that the only money we have to spend is after-tax income. He gets that because he talks about it all the time. So it works, and it's really gratifying to see young people have an intelligent conversation about all of this. But you got to present the information to them in the right way, and it's got to be simple, fun, and educational. And that's the deal. So, okay. This is the biggest mistake adults make. When I did this 50-city tour all over, I heard from lots of places where they thought, well, you know, this is all great, but my kids are too young to understand it, or they'll be bored and not want to learn it. And that's a giant mistake. I have spoken to groups of kids of all ages, and if you present it in the right way, they eat it up. They love it. And they get smarter every time they do it. I mean, here were brownies that I spoke with up at Channel 10. And they couldn't keep their hand down. All they wanted to do was ask questions because they were into it. So it's very gratifying when 9-year-old girls are so into it, all they want to do is ask questions, and it works for college kids too. Excuse me. Okay. So, this was Barnes & Noble in New York on 5th Avenue up in New York. It's the #1 bookstore in the country for financial publications. And we got a call from them one day when the book came out, and they wanted a big blow-up of it, and they were putting it in the window on 5th Avenue in New York. And I flew up to go see them, and they said they did it because they get solicited all the time with books for young people about money, and they think that every single time they've seen them in the past, they were too sophisticated, they weren't simple enough, they were not things that kids were going to use, and therefore they never paid any attention to any of them. And they went out and they put this one in the window, which was very gratifying because these people really understand financial literacy education. Okay. And these are just more kids. Okay. And what we have on the website, we have a website, bluechipkids.com. And there's all kinds of interesting information there. Blog posts, people send pictures in of their kids from all over the place reading the book, and we post the pictures there. And these are some of the pictures that have been sent in to us from different places. So parents and teachers have to be willing to make a real commitment to this. And if you're willing to spend some time, because it won't magically happen by itself, you'll be so happy 6 months later when you see what your child has learned. It'll make you feel good, they'll be better about money, they'll have less debt, and they'll save more money. Yeah, I told you a few bite-sized topics we pick. Now, one of the things we do is, I did this with my son, you know, you can create either a little account on E-Trade with some money so that they can buy some stocks, or you can just use imaginary money if you don't want to use real money. And what you can do is you can, if it's imaginary money, you can pick anything. Pick $100,000 of imaginary money. And you say to your child, okay, look, you're going to buy 4 stocks with $100,000. That means you got $25,000 to spend on each stock. And tell me what stocks you want to buy, and you got to give me a reason. And this is what I've done with other kids. So they come back and they give a reason for each of the stocks. They almost always want to buy McDonald's. They want to buy Coke, Coke bottling, Disney, Apple, because these are companies that they're familiar with. But you let them pick 4 stocks. And then you go on to E-Trade or some other website, and you let them look up these stocks. And you're only spending imaginary money. So you don't have to worry about, oh, that's ridiculous, 100 grand. It's fake money. So you look it up. You look up the price, teach them how to look up the price, teach them how to look up the market cap of the company, teach them how to look up the PE ratio. It's all right there. And if you sit there with your child and do this, it's fun. A lot of parents will learn something in the process, and kids will too. And then follow the movement of these stocks over time. The stocks will go up, the stocks will go down, but you can follow this at home on your kitchen table without using any real money. And it's very educational. Okay. Yeah, this is all in the book. We talk about all of this stuff of brokerage firms and stuff that's in there. Simple, fun, and educational. That's what it's all about. And otherwise, you're just not going to reach kids. You're not. It'll be too boring for them. Oh, here's some more kids. These are pictures people sent in. Even a horse reads the book. Okay? So, there you go. That's it. So, that's where I'm coming from. So I hope you'll give some serious thought to helping to improve financial literacy in the United States, because we sure do need it. So thanks for coming. Any questions? Yeah.
So, when you were interviewing people on the street, what do young people know about saving? I don't hear any kids talking about saving money.
Virtually nothing. Nothing. They don't have savings. Kids do not have savings, from what I can tell. Sometimes they'll have credit cards. They'll have some cash. They'll have an account on their iPhone that allows them to buy stuff. But it's sort of lost in translation because they don't really get the association between what they're doing and the fact you need real money to pay the bill. And when it comes to savings, virtually nothing. They don't get it. And that's one of the big problems. I mean, our countries know better than America's families. We've got $17 trillion of national debt in this country, which we will have forever. It's never going to get paid off. And America's families have got too much debt too. We are a debtor nation. And the only way to stop that, at least stem the tide, is to try to educate young people about the consequences of too much debt. And that was one of the things I was trying to do with the book. So, there you have, yes?
Now the book's published out on your tour, is there something you'd add to the book now that you've been out talking about it more?
I don't know. People have asked me if I was going to do another one, and there's 100 topics in this book, so that's a lot. And I'm sure there would be, but I think I wasn't trying to be all things to all people with this. I just wanted to give a basic education to young people about basic financial matters, and there's always more that can be learned. But I don't have any particular topics in mind that I would add to it. But I'm sure we could come up with more. So, okay. So thank you.
Thank you.